welcome to the Livecast Conversations with. On this show, my guests and I explore the bumps and triumphs of their journey to extract the gems from their experiences, because success leaves clues, and today we turn those clues into billboards for you. I'm your host, Jean Bernier, founder of Peeled Back, speaker and co-active coach, guiding leaders to ruthlessly pursue a life worth living. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 111. In this episode, we are joined to chat with Jaan Yew Woon, a seasoned business professional with a wealth of experience in project management, technology delivery, and team building. Jaan's entrepreneurial spirit and expertise has led him to work with notable clients like Proctor and Gamble, Home Depot, Nike, and much more. Let's listen in as Jaan shares his journey, insights on succeeding in the virtual world, and how his volunteer work with organizations like Regent, Park Boys and Girls Club, and Tropicana community services has shaped his approach to leadership. Let's not miss this opportunity. Jaan, thank you so much for being on the show. My words cannot do you justice, brother, and it has been a long time.
Been a while.
So let's jump into it. Let's talk. It's going very well. I'm glad that our paths reconnected. So Jaan and I used to work together way back in the day when he was at TELUS and I was at a company called Acro Media. I'm sure I was one of his favorite vendors to work with, and we had quite the relationship. Many late night launches and early morning conversations, making sure cell phones could get sold.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about your journey and share a little bit about what's been going on in your world and how working in all these big organizations has kind of like shaped you over the last 2+ decades of being in the technology industry. This is something we were talking about before the cameras started rolling. Is we've seen a lot. Both of us have been here since the beginning of this industry, and it's shaped, it's changed. We've gone from cassettes with pencils in them to where now we were talking about AI before we got into this.
CDs as Frisbees.
Yeah. So what has that meant for your journey in your career? You know, obviously you've worked with some big names. You've done a lot of volunteer work. How is this journey into like leadership and certification and learning and growing in a very rapidly changing industry shaped what it means to work for you?
Well, let me correct you. First of all, it's not work for me, but work with me. It's all about collaboration and partnerships, and no one person is the captain of any one particular ship without a team and the people that they work with. So I am humbled by being able to work and grow through people like yourself, even way back, having learned the experience and what you do, what the technology does, and of course adapting to that change over long periods of time. So you talk about the days of cassette tapes moving into the MP3s, and then moving towards the whole digitization. We've actually seen that journey and seen that change. There's good and bad to it all, but at the end of the day, it's about the end user and how we use all this information and think things every single day.
Yeah. What's been your experience through all these different roles, like understanding and getting to understand the end user and then bringing that into your team? Because every opportunity I've had in the past to work with you, you've been a part of a team, kind of that head person that's then distributing the information and getting everybody aligned around it.
Right. Geez, now I have to think really hard and long. Again, at the end of the day, you're trying to share your experiences and your information. Everybody comes from different walks of life, different experiences, different educational backgrounds, and as I stated before, no one person knows more than another, and you have to really be humbled and understand the journeys of many different people from many different facets of life, countries, even how they were brought up. it all impacts how we see things, and then you really take that sort of jambalaya view and change it, manipulate it, adapt it into your own.
Yeah.
I'm almost sure my thinking today has changed from what it was even 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But
Mm.
I would like to think that I've become better.
How how do you evaluate that for yourself and when you're working with people? And that you use the word collaboration. That's sometimes,
Mhm.
maybe I'm going to pull this back a little bit. It's like, tell us what your definition of collaboration is, so that we can set the stage for everybody.
Really, it's the conversations that happen between two or more people, or teams. You're trying to ideate, you're trying to figure something out, you're trying to even just have a simplified discussion. Uh, to start that, it's this conversation is happening even between us as you're talking, as you're asking questions and I'm answering. You play off one another. You try to create some sort of ideation, something to move forward, and then hopefully you grasp or grab onto something that anchors, and
Right.
you keep pushing and keep moving the thought process forward.
I like that. Within that, it sounds like you need to create the space for everyone to be voices to be heard within it, but like there's almost like an acceptance of chaos when you're in those early starts of
Right.
collaboration. How do you recognize that and acknowledge that and bring that into that space so everybody has an opportunity to, not be afraid of it, but like allow it to be the thing that amplifies all the voices?
uh, you really have to have a certain amount of fair discussion, allow people the space to talk. um, by the same token, you kind of have to keep things on track, especially if
Right.
there's a theme or something that you're focused on. Part of your coaching skill is to make sure that the conversation doesn't stray off, and it probably could really quickly, really easily. But your job is to really hone in and keep things within a framing, and then start to move from there. There's no there's no barrier to talking beyond, because you never know where that idea can stretch to.
Right.
I think of, and I'm trying to remember the tool that we used to use, mind something. We used to, like, on a board, just really start to spider web. You start with that
Oh,
one
mind
inkling of an
maps.
idea, and then it starts to spread. Mind maps. There you go.
Yeah.
That was like years and years ago. Um, but just from one inkling of an idea, a word, a suggestion, it can blossom into so much more.
Right. And then cultivating that and understanding, like you'd said, there's an important component of framing what that collaboration is, right? Like, because not every opportunity is a blue sky opportunity. Sometimes when you're in a
Hmm.
collaborative moment, be like, we're focused on this objective. Now here's the box that
Right.
we're going to play in. How do we make sure we use all the sides of this to get the most out of that, versus we're trying to figure out together where is it we want to go, and then getting that alignment. I think those are
Yeah.
two very important pieces of understanding how do you step into that collaborative space, especially as a leader, and like you'd mentioned, holding the frame of that, because that's important to keep everybody within the right context.
Correct. And timing as well, because you've got that time box that you always have to be aware of. Otherwise, you can talk for eternity if you need to.
Yeah.
But again, if you've got a half an hour or 15 minutes, that's why I love the idea of short meetings, because it's very concise and focused. um, you could literally talk for hours if you wanted to with the team.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that can be a good and or bad thing, but there's,
Exactly.
I guess there's a component of like weighing out, like, no one wants to be stuck in a long meeting or something that's drawn out that's not actually bringing the value. And you, as that
Hmm.
leader and as the bringing those people together, that's kind of your role, is like, how do I ensure everyone is a having an opportunity to be part of adding value and leaving with more value than when they
Yes.
came in.
Hmm. Hmm. and allowing them a place, and we use this word often, safe place to speak and express themselves. Sometimes you have to sort of put the rule of law down to say, okay, here's the expectation, here's our quote unquote working agreement prior to start. Here are the parameters, and then here's what we're working within. But once you're there, again, you want to make sure that everybody is included, everybody feels safe enough to be able to speak and state their opinions.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction to add into that, right? And it continues around that framing. Um, from that, this
Yeah,
place of
yeah.
collaboration is like, so we've got collaboration, we've got some hints of what it means around your definition of like leadership as well as like holding on to that frame, holding on to the direction. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, how do you then extrapolate that to that bigger role of being a leader, regardless of just being in the tech or in some of these Fortune 100, 500 companies that you've worked with? Is like, what does then, how does that shape what it means to be a leader?
I think it's really the action that comes out and what you're able to do with the extrapolated information. You're collaborating with teams. You've got your ideas, and I think really it's the formulation of those next steps, whether it be actionable or something to even move further on ideation. But you kind of want to put some structure around the information that you've come out with, and then
Yeah.
move towards creating some sort of activity or action towards doing something. Part of being a leader is really about the guidance,
Hmm.
making sure that people understand the focus of what you're trying to attain and what you're trying to accomplish, and even acknowledging this is good or this is horrible or let's start again. You've really got to shape and lead that team towards whatever it is that you're trying to you know either accommodate or reach that goal. But at the end of the day, you're really trying to ensure that the team has that structure and framework
Right.
to success.
Yeah. And it's interesting listening as you speak there is like the one thing that stands out is part of like you said lead on its own, but everything part of being a leader to you is getting to that point is like leading people on the journey of whatever it is the journey is, but holding the space for the journey and then holding that space for the team to be able to collaborate and learn and take action from all that to make their way through and to that journey. Did I understand that
Right.
correctly from you?
That's correct. And yeah, no, absolutely. And the other half of being a leader at times is the ability to really shut your mouth and listen, because people have things to say and things that they want to try to accomplish in the meetings or with whatever structure you've set out. You really sometimes need to be quiet and listen. And I know for a lot of people that's kind of hard, especially for those that love to talk and love to jaw. But at the end of the day, you're trying to make sure that everybody is heard.
Right. What's it like to know what how do you know you've accomplished that? What do you see in yourself and like what do you see as a reflection from those that you lead when you know you're like I've used my two ears and not amplified just with my mouth.
I think it's clarity and understanding. First of all, with whatever it is you're trying to do, have you communicated clearly? Do they understand?
Mm.
And you'll know right off the bat because the conversation is flowing in that manner. But also, what you get back in return, is it the direction? Um, and then from there, it's really, can you affirm that this is what we're looking for? This is what we're doing. This is ultimately what we're trying to accomplish and get out. So positive confirmations. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking for as part of that using your two ears, you're looking for the reinforced confirmation that yes, there's understanding here. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that it's like an understanding from them. You're sharing back out to them. We'll pull that back a little bit. It's like sometimes people, I think, misunderstand what understanding even means. So in the
Sure.
relation as being the leader and going, hey, how do I know that this is being understood. What is that? How does that flow back?
I want to say it's almost like a sounding board. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a little bit of back and forth, even at times challenging. Whether it be the status quo or something outside of the proverbial box, you change up the norm that you're going through at the moment, but to recognize that you have to treat yourself with some sort of care.
Within that, what I hear is like there's putting yourself first, and then identifying the importance of shifting that state as well, right? Like you said the word feel, and like bringing that in. From you, I felt like this whole bodied experience by going, hey, go pet the dog, go play with the kids, go go shift yourself intentionally into these other spaces so that you can come back and bring that energy back into what is hard work, like the hard work you need to be able to bring that around. How's that, you know, what do you do to like remind yourself of that on like a regular basis of like making sure that's top of mind and not getting lost so easily in the grind of it all?
This is why I found this past week very hard, because I've not been able to do that for myself, if not at all, very well. And so uh, what was interesting is on LinkedIn, I created a statement. I saw somebody create a post, and it resonated amazing with me. And it made me feel, and that's the key word, it made me feel something. And it got to the point where I wanted to express myself and just put it out there for the universe. And I don't know what I was expecting when I first thought about writing it, but from that single post, uh, probably about 5,000 impressions, if that means anything. How do you relate that? But a lot of people responded. Ton of people that I've not spoken to in the past have come out of the woodwork. It was just a moment of validation for myself to say, you know what, you're feeling this, and other people are seeing it too, and it's okay. It's okay to feel vulnerable. It's okay to feel the way that you're feeling, but also don't sit in it. Keep it moving. Keep going forward. Learn from it, but also remember that you do need to take that break. Again, I said it before. We're human first.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those mic drop moments that we're going to go back and clear. Is like it is okay to be where you're at, and everything that you're feeling is perfectly human. And like,
Yeah,
you're saying it's like you're human first. So if you're human first, all those things are legit. None of them are wrong. There's no judgment. There's no right or wrong. There's just, in all those moments, there just is.
yeah.
And I think that
Agreed.
post is what got us reconnected as well, and made me reach back out to you to invite you on to the show today. Is like to talk about that stuff and be open. And I want to like honor you right now for sharing that this is a hard space for you.
It really was. You're brought up with all the attributes of being a baby from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Won't age myself right now, but what it is to be a man. What it is to
Yeah.
be a male today, and it's taking all those definitions and saying, you know what, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel for yourself. But ultimately, you can't sit in it. You got to keep it moving. And
Yeah.
the other part of this was the affirmations and the friendships that have been rebuilt. When I tell you people were coming out of the woodwork, it was a strange occurrence for me. But this connection or reconnection is what I value the most, to hear and understand, hey, people like you. People actually care about you. And you don't always hear it or see it. And so it's important, it was important this past week for me to see it. I actually had a good Easter weekend because of it. I was just
That's
smiling
awesome.
because, for that one moment of sort of the rejected feeling, people kind of came around to be human towards me. And then I
Right.
remembered, yeah, I got to be human first too.
Gotta be human first. And what I love about that, you got to be human first, is like, is that permission to yourself to take that first step. Somebody has to take the step. And so if you lead to it, others are going to be influenced by it, go, oh, he did it. That means we can do this too. Let's all go be
Yeah.
human together and go celebrate and be connected with, right? And I think, what would be your message to others who are in a similar boat, have gone through a layoff, are working to get back into the workforce and are feeling that pressure? Is like, what would you now tell them?
Reach out to your network, reach out to people even in your past, because you never ever know who A is listening, and B, who could do for you what you possibly could not do or think about for yourself. um, it's just been astounding. Today I had a conversation, for example, with a recruiter, and she gave me all sorts of tidbits of information, and she's doing this for free. And in my head, in my experience, that's unheard of, because everybody's here to make money. And it just proved to me again that the human spirit lives, and it makes me also equally want to do better, especially for other people. So while I'm in the situation I'm in currently, it what it's done is reinforce my uh, belief in people again, and to really build upon that, to say, okay, yes, you're going through what you're going through, but equally other people are too. Can you help them? Karma.
Mm, yeah. What and I loved how you smiled there. Is like, what gets that smile when you say, you can go help them. You might be in a difficult spot, and not taking away from where you are right now. It's like, but to be able to say, hey, it's going to make me smile to go help somebody else, knowing, like you say, karma's a real
Mm-hmm.
thing. What you give, you do eventually get back. So how can you help champion or inspire others to take that first step, to be like, what is it that you could go do to serve?
I think you have to look beyond yourself, really, first.
Mm,
At the end of the day, it could be something as simple as a little kid's bike chain came off and they're standing right in front of you and you're there to help. It could be the little old lady trying to cross the road. At the end of the day, it's to be helpful, it's to feel good about yourself, and to remember that all the divisiveness that we hear in the world today, this party, that party, this individual, this country, it at the end of the day, it's one earth, it's one people. um, I'm shocked that again, people have come out of the woodwork for me, and yet I am humbled, and it makes me want to do better for others, especially the way that I had expressed myself. Perhaps somebody is also sitting within themselves and feeling the despair, to know that, hey, you can look up and you'll see this face sitting in front of you, and I'm here to help you too, just as much as somebody else helped me.
totally. Yeah. And for you to be courageous enough as well to put it out there, like, there is that leap to create. There is fear, and fear is real, and it doesn't have to be that stop. And for you to have taken the courageous moment to say, I'm going to put this out here, I'm going to write what I'm feeling in this moment and share it, not knowing what's going to happen, but knowing that it was probably felt cathartic to do that in the first place. And
Mm-hmm.
then to see the knockoff effect is like, you did that to serve yourself because you're human first, and be like, how can I serve me in this really fulfilling way, to just to let it out, not realizing it was also in service of others.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've heard it so many times that other people have been there, people are still there. And with tech, especially over the last year, it's been miserable. And so how do you pick yourself up out of that? You've got the Amazons and the Shopifys and the Googles, and you can't turn to the bigs anymore like we used to. I'm sure the cycle will turn around and we'll get back to some normalcy. But today, right now, we are where we're at. And then how do you continue to be, or build your resilience? How do you continue to uh, keep moving forward.
Right.
Count on people. We're there for you.
Oof. Another mic drop moment is like that's. I love that message, man. It's like, what can you do? Is like you can learn to count on people, and that also meant you had to go first for people to be able to say, so you could count on yourself, and then others went, oh,
Exactly.
I like that. Not only do I like that,
Yeah.
I like him, and here's how I can serve. And it just keeps having all
Yeah.
these knockoff effects from that one post, from that one opportunity of being vulnerable in the feel of like, oh, fuck, this sucks. And here's what this is about.
Yeah. And the truth is, I didn't know, even as I wrote it, there was no expectation. I didn't know what was going to come back. I didn't know people's reactions. It was just being expressive and in the moment of vulnerability. And what I got back was probably 100-fold than what I expected, which was 0 to begin with. But people read it, people listened,
Yeah.
people heard, and people reached out. And I think that was really the key. It was like Christmas, that feeling.
That's a great way to describe it. Is like, well, you gave a present. You gave your presence at that moment, which is now a present for everybody else to go unwrap and see what they feel about it. And if they're called to connect, and if they're called to serve, and they're called to support in any way, because maybe someone else is going to see some of those comments that are on there and go, oh, maybe that's a person I can connect with. There's lots of lurkers on all
Yeah.
these platforms as well. It's like you don't know what the rest of the knockoff effect of the people that posted publicly and those who reached out privately to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, this recruiter spent 45 minutes with me this morning, and it was so interesting to be on the receiving end. But it and I didn't see it as charity. I actually saw it as someone who was being genuine, and of course, me listening and learning and being humble.
Yeah.
So I've now moved from leader to somebody who's a learner again.
And flipping back into that being in that student role and being okay going actually being part of that leadership is you have to be open to being the student and being learning and being in that uncomfortable space because that's where the growth does happen. And then what does that
Yeah,
now eventually one day evolve into how you lead and how you support people even further because of this and for this.
absolutely. And I'll tell you what, if I am able to get that lead position one more time, that leadership role, I am going to so change everything to do with the interview process moving forward. It's been humbling and interesting to be on the other end, but something has to change. The way that we are interviewing people, the way that we kind of leave people in a lurch, sometimes not explaining, not being clear, or even asking common questions. What is your expectation for compensation? It's like, how do you lead with
Yeah.
that in over and over and over again? And I get you're trying to qualify individuals for the different roles, but it's a hard conversation, especially with you trying to say, okay,
Yeah.
if I say this, do I price myself out of the competition? If I say that, am I undercutting myself? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in I think it's a space that hopefully we'll be able to grow as well and learn how to put the human first involved in it because there's going to be a lot of humans working for other humans. So how do you bring them along on a great experience from start, from their first time that they've ever replied to you to the last day that they move on and graduate to their next great adventure?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, if you happen to hire that individual, hopefully they're seeing something in you to say, hey, this is a place and space that I want to be. This is a person that I can truly think about reporting to, and feel safe doing so.
Love that. Well, brother, I look up at the clock and realize we're at the 40-minute mark, and I want to be respectful of your time. I told you before we got started we were going to get onto a roll and realize we'd blow past 35 minutes and no problem. So before we move on to the last question, I want to give you a
You
chance
did.
to give a shout out for yourself. This is not a chance to be humble. This is a chance to say, "Hey, here's who I am, and what I do, and maybe what you're looking for, and maybe somebody in our audience will be able to continue that connection spree for you.
I am a project leader. I deliver work. I happen to be in the technical space of IT application development. But at the end of the day, I get stuff done. I'm able to organize teams, organize people, organize myself, but really to get the best out of people in order for them to do their work. Developers, QA testers, designers, experience, and just make sure that the world gels well enough that we can avoid risk and really bring things, typical project management speak, on time and on budget, and just make sure that we're delivering. And so that's the place that I play. I've played it well for a lot of years, but also training others up into doing what I do. I'm a journey person in this world of project delivery. I've looked after programs upwards of $10 million and delivered successfully. And so that's a place and space that I play well in and would love to continue. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right. So if you're listening to this live, make sure to connect with Jaan, and his details are going to be down in the show notes. So let's show him some love. And if you're interested, you can go to LinkedIn and check out the posts that we're talking about throughout the show as well, and be an opportunity maybe to be vulnerable and put yourself out there about how you're feeling, because you just never know who's listening and who's watching.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. All right. So last question before we let you go is, what is your definition of trusting yourself?
Ooh, that's hard. Definition of trusting yourself. I think you really have to take the time to be introspective, listen to your mind, listen to yourself, listen to the things that are around you and the things that you're doing. Everything will come into play eventually. Again, we talked about patience earlier. I think that is a huge part, to be patient with yourself. And I've said it, to think of yourself first from time to time. We're of the generation now that we're moving so fast, so quickly that, we want to make sure that, we're moving so fast, so quickly that you want to try to accomplish, but within reason and within balance. So it's so important.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. It's another unique one to that question. So I appreciate your time, my friend, and being on the show today.
Thank you.
And for everybody else, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, I'm Gene, and this is the Livecast Conversations with. We'll talk to you then.